you still get your benefits. A lot of people ain't can't be an arna for that reason. There's not enough discipline there, and that's cool. But yeah, we've been scrapping it out a little bit. We've been scrapping it out. They've been shooting their slugs. Trying to me too the guys. You can't be too the guys, bro. What you talking about? It was funny. I sound like I dwell on it, but I just today was given an offer to debate another chief, quote unquote chief of another tribe, and it was supposed to be a Mexican chief, right? Mexican chief, and it was like the other guy, the guy's been raiding. I've been going back and forth with. He was like, yeah, why don't you tell the Mexican chief why you think he's not a validated Indian? I'm like, what you talking about? But that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Today is a prime example. Why are we going to people that ain't Aboriginal and talking about, how come you feel that? Why don't you go tell them why you don't think they're originally here? Bro, if you ain't Aboriginal, if you're not Hugh-bodied, you weren't originally here. Why are we even discussing? He wants me to debate him. And you know what? If he had more followers, I'd probably think about it. How about that?
God, there is no debate at this point, God. There's nothing to debate. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's fact or fiction, it's truth or lies. I'm not debating anybody. I left all that stuff in 2020 with the Negro pens and getting the Trump out and all that stuff. I left that last year. I'm done with debating anybody. If you want to build, let's build. If you don't, then get out the way.
I'm with that. I do agree. I'm not bad at that at all. The only thing with where I was one, there's not a lot of people that know about arna and how our government works. A lot of people out there that just don't know. Like honestly, what even had it cross my mind was since we've been going back and forth this week, I've had a lot of their people coming to me wanting to know more, wanting services. I'm just like, whoa, wow, this is flooding to me. I'm like, wow, this is the back and forth on IG. So there's like a lot of people that there's still waiting for me to reply to. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that want our services. So I'm like, yo, if I didn't already feel like most of the people that even know about you that haven't already turned on you, if you had more people, I think about doing it. Just from a back and forth and getting to listen to these people. A lot of people don't know. It's a matter of introducing people to the information. And it's very indigenous. You know what I mean? Like, our people, other nations would have these debates, public debates. We get to the crux of things. But like I said, it's just off the table because he doesn't have a big enough following. You know what I mean? So it for me would be more about showing people the information. You know what I mean? But we're here. You know what I mean? And the discussion kind of, had me get to the place where I wanted a lot of things were revealed this week, right? You asked me things that you don't do as a man, things you really don't say as a man. And I released a video this week of the brother that was bragging about being broke. I don't get that. Why he was talking shit? I don't know where they do that at. You know what I mean? Like, you talking shit simultaneously, be like, yeah, but I'm broke though. I mean, like, yo, this is material. This is perfect. And I'll take some time out today to edit something up. You know what I mean? I'll take some time out, but the brother was bragging about being broke, but why our government isn't functional. So it had me to kind of come to the position where I'm like, okay, we have to have this discussion on what do us as indigenous Aboriginal men expect from other men, how we need to operate our jurisdiction, how we need to protect our people, protect our nation, things of that nature, and even maybe from like women. You know what I mean? The sisters that are here that might want to know because there's a difference between, if you ask me, a difference between the conscious world and like, I guess the conscious indigenous world. You know what I mean? They're a little different and they operate a little different, but one is it's the evolution of another, if you ask me. But for the sisters that, I love to hear from some of the sisters too. I know the man's gonna build. I've been building with some of the brothers on here what do some of the sisters expect from the men? You know what I mean? In your indigenous society, or just your community in general.
Go ahead, Joy. I saw you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just listening for right now, but I will talk.
Okay. Do you have any sisters available that want to talk about what they want from the men? Because we can build. You know what I mean? Like, I know a few shit. Me and Kojo alone, we can build. Krishana, you got anything?
Can you hear me okay? Sorry, I just got a phone call. But I was going to say, I come into these rooms, like there's several rooms today, and I know that may not be like but I keep seeing these rooms pop up with other black men talking about why they shouldn't date black women. I love, because I never ever hear like another opposite opinion with other brothers in the room. It'd be like, 70 brothers on one accord about why they don't want to date black women, and there's never like another option, which they're probably not going to come into a room like this, but I see that a lot on Clubhouse. So I'd love to, hear like a counteract to some of that energy, which I just don't think that I see it on a mass number.
I'll go ahead and start. Prashant and I have already had this conversation, but for people who are in the room who aren't privy to it, one thing that I know about the Aboriginal melanated black goddess, she has no respect for a beta male. She expects a man to act and behave like a man. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is we have to understand that, us being united is a threat to the establishment. That's why they work so hard with all of their eugenicist agendas to break us apart. The number one agenda in Hollywood right now, and I'm sure everyone sees it, is the interracial relationship. You see it on commercial ads. You see I've never in my lifetime can I remember seeing more black males with white women in either a commercial, a television, or a film project, and vice versa. You see it with our melanated sisters that have natural hair, but then they'll be with a white dude or an Asian dude or a Hispanic dude, Italian dude, European dude. And all of this stuff is very strategic, because I was in a room last night and the brother Wealth broke this thing down to a T. Basically saying this, in this age of Aquarius, we all charge from the sun. Like, it's just like a cell phone where you need an upgrade. We upgrade with the sun. And the way for them to dilute our power is to get us to procreate with the, whatever you want to call them, the non-Aboriginal melanated person. And so what happens is, when you create those mixed breeds and those hybrids, they don't have the same ability to upgrade from the sun. They don't have the same sensory skills. They don't have the same intuition. They don't have the same God body. And so when you continue to procreate with non-Aboriginal people, you're losing your power, and your lineage is losing your power. And so now, with this jab that they're trying to, get everybody on, that's the key to their transhumanism agenda. They're trying to separate us from our power, and by contaminating us with this messenger RNA, we won't be able to have those same abilities. Okay? And so the only way we are as a people are going to overcome the current predicaments is we have to unify. We need our Aboriginal God and our Aboriginal goddesses procreating together on one accord. But in order for that to happen, both of us, gods and goddesses, we have to have our priorities intact. A lot of these people out here that are just, dating outside of their race, number one, they don't know who they are. When you know who you are, you act accordingly. And because they don't know who they are, and because they're low vibrational, and because the foods they're eating, they're not manifesting and attracting the right energy. They're attracting a similar energy, which is a low vibrational energy, but because they're not meditating, because they're not, sun gazing, because they're not eating the right foods, they're vibrating on a low vibrational frequency. And when you're doing that, you're finding yourself in arenas where you're, around people that don't reciprocate the proper energy. And so to end it, we need to make sure that our priorities and our objectives are clearly defined. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever. We need to have some type of plan, because when you have some type of plan or objective that you're working towards, the universe will make sure that the proper, the right energies and the right people are coming into your life. So we need to get our priorities.
And that's a great point, bro. Like, I agree with you on everything you just said. And that kind of ties back to like what we're expecting from Black men. Me in particular, just going from not dating Aboriginal, that they know they're Aboriginal men, to dating Indigenous men. I clearly see a difference in energy, even dealing with like a lot of the mental issues that people may have, like just basics like yelling. In our tribe, it's really suggested that our men don't yell at women. And that's something that I had never heard from anybody except for like when I met Chief, my first summit. He was explaining that like not only, does it stress the women out, but it like lowers the men's testosterone. And it's like, dang. And also I'm like, dang, everybody's winning without yelling. But just like those little things, you don't really hear that in the Black community. If anything, you might hear a little bit of ratchetness, they having a drink or two, nitrogen spilling out here and there. So, the diet alone, I see our men having testosterone, having kids, producing kids with no problem. And if they did have a problem, we solve it. But what we expect, I think, is like for a man to truly like be what a man is, like not swap gender roles. Like, and I'm not even saying that, gender roles have to be set in place. Like, of course, we're a team, and wherever things need to be helped, we help out. But, women feel, I think, more confident being even submissive to a man that does what he needs to do. Like, there's no problem, and no one feels like, it's unfair if the man has an agreement with the woman and he said, hey, I'm going to do this if you do this. And if he sticks to his word and she sticks to hers, things are getting done. Things are more functional. There's less stress. So, that's just kind of my input on what I expect from Indigenous Black men, is to take care of the Black woman, but put her in a situation where she's able to take care of the family and herself and build. So, yeah.
Yeah, respect. I just want to get some clarity on Kashana's question real quick too. Was your question towards Black men having created these interracial groups on Clubhouse, or the women? And what do we think about it?
Both. They're actually both. But lately, like I've had a couple of Black men, kind of like send me a DM message about how they're tired of dating the sisters and this, that, and the third, and just kind of like with this like whole Kevin Samuels energy that's going on, but it's really prevalent in a lot of the Black people on Clubhouse and even just in person. Like I was talking to some of my cousins, and they were all talking about how like a lot of these Black men are not dating them and things like that. So I would love to hear other men who do stick to this, just like you brothers here, counteract that. But I also know that can be an energy that can suck your energy out too, because the people are stuck on a particular mindset.
Yeah. So okay, to build on that from the Ken perspective is I don't want to dismiss it by going into the agent provocateur discussions, because we know white supremacy, they have to have they have to hire like minions to push those discussions to push away the black families. You know what I mean? So even if you're not, even if you might just be confused because you got out of a bad relationship with a brother or a sister or something like that, and you just got out and you ain't really, you weren't really on it before, but now you're hearing, these perspectives from maybe these provocateurs who are sent out here to have these conversations, to disrupt things. That form of ignorance. You know what I mean? From the person who is innocent. You know what I mean? Because there's two different energies. But understanding that every social media, popular social media placement, you're gonna have conversations to where, hey, why white women is easier to get away with, or easier to deal with, and the black women is blah blah blah, or why we need to start dating Asian men because they cook Roman noodles a little better. Whatever the case is, you have those. You're gonna have that in whatever social media platform. You know what I mean? But outside of that, so you got there, but let's having the discussion about the people who are just genuinely coonish, right? You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna write a thesis on it. I'm not gonna talk up a thesis on it. But it is a fact that we need to have a discussion about these hood rats. And a lot of these non-Aboriginal or non-Indigenous people that come to America with that mindset as well. You know what I mean? So on the hood rat discussion, you have the scenario where you're on, I say hood rat, but also ratchet Negro. I'm not put on our women. You know what I mean? This is both perspectives. And our sisters who are a lower level with their frequency, getting benefits from white supremacy, dependent on white supremacy. You're showing, you're raising up these children with these particular mindsets of, counting on white people, counting on, lower level scenarios. We're all dealing with white supremacy. If you're in that situation, understood. But the issue is when we're not sticking together, when we're not trying to push for better than just this. If you're in the hood and you just want to live hood fabulous, that's about as most as you want to take it. And these babies are seeing this. You're gonna have black women and black men grow up seeing their mama and daddy on this weird stuff. You know what I mean? And hey, look, anything paler than me just kind of sounds like a lick for whatever reason. You know what I mean? Or it's not even just in the hood. It's some of these Negroes that feel that I got a little money. Let me take my people. Let me take my family away from black folks, and let me put them in these white folks' schools. That way they get a better education. You know what I mean? And then you feel like you're doing the job like a good parent, but these white folks in these schools beating the white supremacy into your kids, just steadily going in, and they do it so subliminally, you don't even, you're not going to catch it as a parent. The kid barely even catches it. So you learning what white supremacy is the shit from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 15, 17, you know what I mean? Years old, low key. And then they're pushing their agenda now, is why they have, I'm not going to go in on LGBT community, but that's a conversation that needs to be had, to where that leads into why we have those kind of situations and scenarios. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to talk about it, but really touching on the foreigners, or the people who are not Aboriginal, Indigenous to North America, coming in with particular mindsets, to where in your country you get very excited to see white folks. You know what I mean? Over here in America, we're very familiar with okay, these people are a problem. We know for a fact they done put crack in our neighborhood. They did this with the Tuskegee. The police is everywhere. So white supremacy has their hand in in a global situation as of right now. You know what I mean? So you're in a place where you see nothing but black folks, but it's being orchestrated by a hand that you don't know. So there's poverty. You blaming the government because they black. You know what I mean? And you're oh, they ain't doing this shit right. You don't know that the U.S. or some other European power is orchestrating all that shit. So, you living in poverty, trying to get over to America because you feel like it's littier, and every time white folks show up in your foreign country, you get the buck dance. You're like, they brought food or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? I see it all the time, and then I hear from people that's over there. You know what I mean? Or they go visit and they live. You know what I mean? So when people are around all of that, they come to North America and then they start bringing that. Oh nah, man, what nigga? White folks is bad, nigga. You miss me with that shit. And then they're giving game to be like, yo, stay away from the Black Americans. Stay away from the Black Americans. They gonna give you issues. You want to get with something paler than you, that's got something better going on than those Black Americans. Even though the Black Americans created virtually every shit you see around us. You know what I mean? But paler than us is the way. You know what I mean? So you have the hood rat, the Negro coon, the bedbuck, I'll say. You know what I mean? Who's like, anything paler than me. This domestic here. And then you have the situation where foreign people come over as well. Then you got the situation where people who got money dealing with white folks, and you put your babies around these white children that are, in some cases demented, low key. You know what I mean? They doing little weird shit, pissing on kids. We got that shit over here in Dallas situation not too long ago. You're like, it's like, why you got your baby with them? With none of the white folks, nigga. Like, what you think is gonna happen? You're the only Black thing there, which I thought was gonna happen. And even though that happened to him, it might have warped his mind to be like, damn, okay, that happened to me. They're greater than me. I'm gonna grow up and want that. So my whole thing is like, we have to deal with this coon problem. This like hood rat, Negro, like foreign, whatever. We got to deal with that shit because they're raising little baby coons, and they're gonna make it worse for us here in the future. You know what I mean? So I just want to give perspective on that. Perspective.
I like to add a few words to that too, Brother Kaim, because, whenever we come to America, I can speak on that specifically since I'm from Jamaica. When we come to America, we call them Yankees. And I remember that's something that I was wondering about. I'm like, so why I can't chill out with my brothers? But you want me to go to this, go to that? You know what I mean? So that's something that's run deep within, I think it's a brainwash tool. That's what it really comes down to, you know what I mean? Because we weren't aware that these were our brothers. And not only that, they only show us the bad part of our brothers in movies, whether that be, different scandals that they try to promote. So we don't get to see so much, the brotherhood, the love, the I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. Let's go get this, let's go get that together. They don't show us that, in certain movies highlighted, but they're very rare. You know what I mean? Very, very rare you see those movies. So I think it's a stereotype or a stigma that's put on, on us as individuals coming up to America. Because, the islanders, I'm talking about all islands. I'm not speaking just Jamaica, Haitian. I'm talking about even some of the Spanish cultures. They come to America and they're like, oh, those crazy ass Yankees, or don't hang around with them niggas over there because they don't know what they're talking about. They get you in trouble. And you got to understand the movies, the culture. Culture is dealing with cultivation. That's the root word of culture. It's cultivating you to act a certain way, to think a certain way. You know what I mean? And I caught on to that earlier in life, and that's why I'm like the black sheep in my family, but I'm also the one leading my family. You know what I mean? Anything that comes out, I'm the one leading them because I had a different mindset from them. And I'm not highlighting my things so much. I'm highlighting the mindset part of it because that's what it comes down to is how we're being cultivated. For example, Chief Ali, talks about these what they call them CMOS, and how there's different types of CMOS, and how depending on how they're cultivated and where they're cultivated, it changes their structure,
mineral content,
whether that making them right. There we go. Whether that be weaker or stronger, based on just where they're at. And that goes not just for them, it goes for babies too. What are you feeding yourself, your body? And not to stray from the point. The point I'm trying to make is this though. Cultivation has a lot to do with it. And where we are currently in North America, the way they got this place running the things that they got us watching, is cultivating the way that we look and perceive life. And due to that, we lose the connectivity that we all share with each other. And I think that's key for all of us to remember, because that's very important for us to keep moving forward with that mindset that, okay, my brother is like this because of this reason, and not so much to throw him underneath the bus, but to highlight it and deal with it as it comes to us. They're like, okay, this nigga needs some nutrients, he needs some this, he needs to go see somebody from the Indigenous health clinic and get him right, and not so far as like just throwing the brother out like he ain't shit, because that he got problems, man. The way he's been raised is not suitable for what he's trying to do. He might have a certain astrology that he meant to be a king or something like that along the lines, and he can't do it just based on the fact of how he's been cultivated. So we got to look at all those different perspectives, especially when we're dealing with our brothers. It's a very delicate subject. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to give appreciation for you sharing that, fam. That's real. Much respect, God.
Yeah, I come from an athletic background. I'm a former collegiate football player and collegiate football coach. And one thing that football did teach me is strategy and studying my opponent and scouting reports. And one thing I will say about these Devils is they don't take doing their scouting reports for granted. They've invested infinite resources into social engineering. And unfortunately, in our community, we don't study our enemy the way that they've studied us. But once you start to learn and study your enemy, they become very predictable with their tactics. Obviously, everybody in this room understands divide and conquer, but it's a little deeper than that. Ken and the god Nefa Barrington talked about how a lot of our melanated brothers and sisters who migrate here from either the Caribbean or Spanish-speaking countries, and they come here, and it's not just those places. You can say Africa as well. You can say Southeast Asia. It's very clear that they are told specifically to stay away from the Aboriginal American. They're taught to identify with European culture. That's by design. That's not a coincidence. Ken also talked about education. We have to understand that we're at war. Name me any other person or country or just being that sends their children, their offspring, their lineage, their legacy to learn from the oppressor. But that's essentially what we do every time we drop our kids off at school. We're eating foods. A lot of people are talking about revolution this and liberation that, but they're going to Kroger and Whole Foods and McDonald's and Walmart, and what I'm saying, like, we don't control our own economics, and economics is the number one weapon. They control all of this. Every aspect of society starts with economics. And until we control our own economics, revolution, it sounds good, but we have to understand that, it's deeper than that. You understand? You look at some of these other cultures when they come here, whether it's they're Asian or Hispanic or Mexican, Koreans, or, whatever you want to, whatever demographic, Armenians, whomever. When they come over here, they might not even like each other. But when it comes to the greater good, the well-being of their community, they will put all bullshit aside and they will get on code in order to control their economics. Now, I know for a fact they don't have to deal with the agent provocateurs that the guy Ken talked about, where their people are strategically put in position to stop progress. You know, there's a reason why the black elite, if you will, these entertainers and athletes are always the first ones to tell people, to influence them into behavior that's detrimental to your health. That's why you have, you know, Spike Lee on a commercial talking about vax the block, juvenile, talking about vax that thing up. You know, we need to understand that we need to break this generational curse of idol worshiping these athletes and entertainers or people in the limelight, because history tells us that they don't have our best interests at heart. But yeah, that's the premise of my thought at this moment.
Thank you very much. And first, I'd like to say thank you to everybody in the collective group and the moderators for the decorum in the room. I think that we should start acknowledging that, as some of these spaces don't really offer us much of anything. And this definitely is offering the decorum necessary for us to learn. Great day, everybody. As I'm not familiar with both of the people, I actually, if I'm not mistaken, have been on the platform a few times, on a different platform a few times with the brother Ken. And so I'd like to send peace and welcome to you, my brother, if you remember me. Nonetheless, I just want to... Peace, King. I'm glad you remember me. Thank you. And I'm happy to hear smiles. I hope you hear the smile back to you. With that, I was going to... The topic caught my attention, and the decorum kept me. And so with that, I wanted to just acknowledge from my individual perspective. You know, I am an indigenous individual. You know, I've been rocking in my life. And some of the things that I've learned through my grandmother, through my grandfather, through my mother and my father. And now, as I am not just a parent, but turning into a grandfather for the first time, I'm very happy about that, is that as a collective group, first thing is every man in my life, not the men, but every man of my life told me first thing that we do is protect the women. And so, I mean, literally, that was the first thing that I was taught, that your job as a man, as a young boy, you know, as a brother to your sisters, as a matter of fact, as a big brother to your little brothers, first thing you do is protect. And so I just wanted to answer the question from my individual perspective. I'm not representing anybody else right now except me, is to say that as an indigenous male, my number one job is to protect the women of my family and then those who choose to associate with me. You know, I am a chief, and so, you know, that protection extends to other members of my tribe. And then, you know, in the larger thing, I care about indigenous, so I care about us all as a people. But again, for me, it's protect the women. Now, I want to acknowledge to the men that me and my brothers have been having a discussion over the last few weeks, which is, you know, we have this model that we go after. You know, we want to offer, what do the women want? You know, and again, I'm not speaking to the women, I'm talking to the men, but when the men talk, when the men that I know talk, we say they want protection, they want security. That's the number one thing they want, protection and security. And what are we going to protect them from? When our colonizers offers us all of the comfortabilities that they would want and or need to stay alive. And so for me, again, the number one thing is to keep the women safe. That's my mother, my sisters, my children's mothers, my children specific. And, you know, of course, my aunties and everything like that. And I think that should be our number one job. However, when we're talking specifically to the men, we're asking ourselves, what does that look like in this world? And, you know, I don't necessarily do with the alpha and the beta, as I was a single father. my 22-year-old is actually I raised her from birth. And so I'm going to acknowledge, and I'm be happy to acknowledge that as a single father, I definitely got in touch with my feminine side in order to offer my daughter the best. First of all, I ain't want nobody to be around her or touch her. And so I had to keep her. So, and then number two, I didn't want her to be a tomboy or a lesbian, or didn't give her the opportunity to be as much of a divine feminine as she can be. And so I had to change my ways in a lot of ways. That didn't make me less of a man. Just understood I had responsibilities to take care of. I think it made me a better chief. However, with that being said, to us men, what does protection and security look like? And it can look different for me and for you, particularly if our number one goal is to protect the women. You protect the women with the food. You protect the women with literally security and guns and physical contact if necessary. You protect the women with your political power. You protect the women with the law. You protect the women by making sure that you're a good father and you keep having these children. Because, like one of my brothers, he younger than me. He on his 13th child right now. He just hitting 40. And so, again, my point is that to us men, we need to have this conversation without the women. For real, for real. However, when we have this conversation with the women, the number one, for me, and for anybody that I talk to, if you ain't protecting your women, what's up with you? Why, what's up with that? And if you are, okay, well, what are you doing to protect your women? Because I might be doing something a little bit different. And how can we unite those so that we have more women protected? And again, I may not necessarily, I'm a chief. That don't mean I have to disrespect your chief or anybody else's chief that's on this platform. And then that's another thing that, there's a few different types of indigenous collectives that's listening right now. It's another thing we need to do, respect what each other has done for the collective group. Specifically, this chief that he's done a lot for indigenous peoples. And it's decorum, respect for each other, respect for our women, and protection of our women. That's what I think that we as indigenous men need to be concentrating on. And thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Congratulations, congratulations on that, fam. On the new family members joining the tribe, brother. I just want to give a shout out to that real quick, God.
Hey, good brother Ken. I appreciate your voice. You got a strong, loving voice, man. I appreciate that. And thank you, man. I'm going to make sure everybody know I got a lot of love for this brother right here, just from a few conversations. But thank you.
Same to you, fam. Absolutely. Same to you, brother. And I'll speak quickly and let anybody else answer that, build on that question, because that's the question of why we're here. And I'm glad you had to try. You brought the tribal scenario up. You know what I mean? Because that is something, especially now with our people here in North America getting more conscious and aware that we were not all brought here from Africa, that we had our own nations, our own cities, our own government that we were a part of here that was, stripped from us through contracts and schemes and things of that nature. So, there's different capacities to take that. But to have that, to build on that real quick, is to understand that you have to have the tribal conversation first and foremost, because that's what you get into, right? You can't operate a full protection mechanism for you and your family. And our chief would say you can't even truly be a man, call yourself a man, if you are trying to run yourself and your family in your enemy's government, in white man's government. And that even means in regards to, and when we get into the sensitive conversation, and we're talking about the tribe side, right? The tribe side. You have different tribal nations here in North America. And within these tribal nations, you have various amounts that have either traded in their sovereignty, their indigenous sovereignty, for benefits from the U.S. government. So, you're getting like, in some cases, most of the tribes getting what we recognize, getting the casino monies, getting the reservations and stuff like that. There is contracts that they are getting from the government that lose the strength of their sovereignty by doing that. And granted, and I'll be fully honest, I can at least say they're still in a better position than the average Negro in North America or across the way. You know what I mean? Like across the, in other countries, they're still, in a better position. Yeah, at least there's some mechanisms that work there. But when we're dealing with what we know we need to do as a collective of people that lost their sovereignty from or got wholly denationalized when we had whole nation states in our own capacities by the Europeans. And it's not to say that I don't want to come off like I'm bashing Caucasians or Europeans. Like, I'm not saying they're all bad, but what I'm saying is or that they all, every single one of them have an agenda. I'm not trying to say that, but we can't even act like we can intermix with them. And even on that scale, even on the scale of I'm losing a little face because you're giving me a little bit of money here, and because it's a little bit more easier if you give it to me than me work it out in my own government. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a problem, and that's a situation we've identified with some tribal nation states. Other tribal nations will say they're making the claim that they're indigenous. They're indigenous, but it's there's a lot they're missing, and some are doing it right. You know what I mean? But regardless of the fact, the conversation needs to be had is, how are you really a man, and you're operating in your enemy's government? You know what I mean? I think that's first and foremost, because if they can tax you, if they can throw you in jail for some crazy stuff, you have no real protection mechanisms that don't fully work, it's going to be an issue. So to me, that is level one. Two, on a more basic level, we can speak for our jurisdiction. We do have protocols in the way we interface with our women, and how our women operate. So for instance, you gotta be protected. You know what I mean? Like if your woman is traveling, or your children traveling, you have to have some sort of protection mechanism. Like you're just about to leave out, and there's no man with you, or there's no securitized system in wherever you're going. If that's not the case, I'm going with you. Even if it's the downtown, you go into downtown and it's just you and your homegirls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's no man, there's no anything. We don't lit. It's not lit like that, like it used to be a few decades ago. It's not. Black women getting snatched up, and it's happening in real time. And it happens, and everybody gets sad when in some cases where there's no protocol, there's no constitution, women would look at that like, damn, nigga, like you gonna be there at the club? No, look, we just gonna be here. We're gonna be outside chilling. Me and Minister Kojo, we'll be building outside. You know what I mean? We'll be chopping it up. But y'all don't got no man. You know what I mean? So we're gonna be out here strapped. You give me a call when it's popping, because we've seen how coon Negroes or white supremacists act when they know there's a man around on deck somewhere. Even if you mention it, even if you just mention it, like, yeah, he's outside somewhere. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But we still kicking it. Whatever. The energy shifts. Like I'm sure y'all seen where you had your woman walking, inside of a gas station by herself, or somewhere, and somebody shoots, tries to holler at her, versus someone disrespects her, or someone tries to get over on her at the auto shop because this is a woman. You know what I mean? I could go ahead and raise these prices up a little bit more. It's a different energy when your Aboriginal man is with you. So we have to have those protocols when dealing with our women. You know what I mean? We have to have our money right in our society. That's why the Indigenous nation is pretty big. So I'm not gonna. There's more, but I'll let anybody else build if there's anybody else that want to build.
I want to say something. just talking about like the protection part of it, I have in the past dated non-Aboriginal men too, and I've been in situations, cops could come to your door, cops could come in your house, just for a noise complaint. We've seen everything on the news, yada yada. And I think too, like dating an Indigenous Black man with those protections is just a whole nother level of protection because, their land, they can't do the same thing as, another man on the street. Like their stuff is under tribal protection. They come in this land, like technically, in the state of Texas, you can get shot, or even not in the state of Texas, like Aboriginal, this is what you own. Like they can't just come in there and like walk in like they own the place. So I think that's also what I love about, being with Aboriginal men. It's like you can be more protected that way too. Like you don't have to worry about, the little things, which make a big difference.
Well, real quick, you said you've dated non-Aboriginal men before or non-Indigenous?
Okay, well, no, I'm saying they're Black, but I'm saying like the ones that didn't know they were Aboriginal, like probably just saying African American, just guys that weren't protected under a tribal government or having tribal land or having land that could be stripped from them at any point in time under a mortgage or a lien.
Gotcha.
Trust me, I never dated. Oh, I've never dated. No.
Okay.
I can see your face right now, God.
Okay, I guess that came off wrong, but forgive me, y'all. I'm low key lit, so yeah.
It's okay. We're just gonna make the room know. That should they understand. My baby ain't out here bedwinching in the past. It's okay if you did. I'm not judging. We'll get this a whole other conversation. But look, that's why choose very specifically. Yeah. But I just wanted to clarify. Anybody else on that? Anybody else want to do that on that?
What's a bedwench?
Excellent question. Had a good brother ask me that not too long ago. So, a bedwench, you go into I'm not going to make it a history lesson, but in history, it was originally a slave on a plantation who was called by the slave owner to quote unquote warm the bed. For the white man, that was the white man's excuse to like his wife or his whatever spouse to have the black woman in his bedroom to be able to sleep with her, right?
Rape her or sleep with her?
I'm sorry.
Rape her or sleep with her?
That brings even more context because it may have go to rape, but then so here's the thing about the bedouins, right? It would occur, right? The raping, the sleeping with, whatever you would call it. Now, where it would turn left, because there is a victim side to it, right? But then it's another thing where you would have that same slave walk around the slave quarters like she was better than the rest of the black, women and people there because the white man chose her to be the bedwench. Right, so there was a mindset that would start coming with that, and further context would be, the men would peep that and be like, "Nigga, what you doing just sleeping with this nigga? You better bring us some Negro trinkets. You know what I mean? Some apple pie, something from the thing. You know what I mean? So the men would be in there, kind of like putting it in the ear, like, yo, you gonna be going in there getting it popping. You ain't doing it just for clout. You gonna bring some shit out here and put on. You know what I mean? So, but in context, that was it was a woman that was being raped or being slept with, but then it would kind of go to her head. In this particular case of the bedouins, go to her head and feel like there was more clout and she was chosen, like she was the one, the lucky one to be in there. So we bringing it on the modern day age, and that's kind of what the conversation I brought up earlier, where we have the interracial situations going on in 2021 so heavy, being due to our people thinking that anything paler than them, anything blacker than them works. Mexicans, Asian, white folks, and the same thing for the men. You got bed bugs out here too. You know what I mean? Like that's what we call them. but the situation was different for like the literal Bedouins. You know what I mean? Like, black men wasn't chosen to go inside the house like that. But for the mindset, we call those bed bugs. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's to kind of bring the context. It's usually black women that love to have sex with or date white men specifically, or anything non-Aboriginal specifically. And it's starting to get nasty in these streets. Me and Minister Kojo was riding around on 2 different occasions. I had my occasion, and he had his occasion in the same goddamn spot. You know what I mean? Of this movie theater where the yard house is and all that. I pull up. I'm seeing this decent looking sister, right? You know what I mean? She looked young, like vibrant. You know what I mean? She's kissing somebody. She's slobbing somebody's down. I'm like, okay, let me see what this is. I'm driving. It's this old white man just slobbing it down. I said, ugh. I said it out loud so they could hear it. Ugh. You nasty. I said that like 3 times. The other fact, Sadie's probably, okay, yeah, she gone. She remember when she was, she was pulling up when she saw, she was like, what you talking about? I'm like, look, this nigga's nasty around here. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be judgmental like that, but that is nasty. That's nasty. And Mr. Kojo had his own situation, exact same spot, 4 or 5 black women hopping in this older white man's vehicle, and shit, that's just nasty. Yeah, we got to pick it up. But it's in a heavy coon area side of town of here in Dallas, so where we just happen to be at. So it makes a little sense. So I hope that answers your question, sis.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, part where, because I know bedwench is something to do with women being raped, so that's why I find it a little triggering when black men call black women bedwenches, because it does have to do with black women being traumatized and being exploited and raped. So that's why that's my problem with it. But okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the general raping and of our ancestors and stuff like that, that's an issue. But then that issue, it shifts onto it's called bug breaking, right? We're talking about bug breaking essentially.
That too. I'm not a man, so I don't know, but it is why do we call each other these terms?
Well, it's I would say synonymous to why we're using the term coon. We know where the origins of coon came from, and I was one of the proponents to be like, yo, we should use a different term for that.
I don't feel like coon is that harmful. What is that derived from?
The actual etymology of coon traces back to the raccoon people, which were the melanated people. White people actually came up with the term coon, and then like a lot of different terms, we took it and kind of changed the context of it. But if you research coon, it derived from the term raccoon.
Correct. So that it was something that was more common for white folks of more like recent time. I mean, it goes back, I'm sure, a few hundred years too. But it, I guess, kind of like nigga. I say, like me and Jay, we had that conversation with nigga about nigga and the etymology of it. I have a less of a problem with nigga because you go into the history that term existed amongst royalty. And not just Ethiopian royalty, but royalty among, Aboriginal races around the world. So that term didn't start with white folks. The term coon did. And that's why I had a huge issue with it originally. I was the one, trying to don't use that term. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's how white folks.
Because I guess a raccoon is like black and white, so I just thought that's what the raccoon came from. Or like Oreo, because Oreo is black and white. That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're trying to make it into. And I still don't actually love the term coon, but it's just, I could drop that. Jay, I could drop the term coon. If we was give me like a month or so, I'd be able to do the mind a little bit over nigga. But I don't love the term because it did start with white folks, and it was derogatory. It started off derogatory with the term nigga. That started out from a term of, royalty or, Aboriginal melanated people that white folks then tried to flip it, and now we've kind of flipped it back again, you know what I mean, to kind of reclaim it. Coon, I believe the origins, like Jay said, started with white folks, so.
Says, peace to the goddess, Miss, I believe your name is Miss Keys, yes, so to direct towards your question about the use of the term bed wench, we have to understand the psychology and the context of the term. Ken kind of broke it down from the plantation origins, but it goes even deeper. Before the plantation, you have to understand that the devil, the white man, whatever you want to call him, has a history of making a melanated Aboriginal woman his concubine. It had happened here throughout the Americas. You can go back, trace it back to ancient Kemet. The whole term amalgamation of basically making the melanated woman his concubine and impregnating her, and then having that child is a half-breed hybrid, where the term mulatto derived from. And then you give that mulatto, that half-breed, special privileges, more privileges than their full-blooded melanin brethren. And then what happens after that, they're indoctrinated into the customs and the culture of the white man, the Eurocentric customs. And what happens is what they do, they go and procreate with another non-Aboriginal person, and then you get the quarter and the eighth and so on and so forth. They're all classified as white. They all identify as white. And so that's where you kind of get that psychology that you no longer want to procreate with the melanated brother. And so when you fast forward to modern times and you take a look at the 60s, when we had the civil rights movement and the black nationalism movement and just the black power movements and all of the different movements that we had, whether it was, the Black Panthers, or if it was the Black Liberation Army, the Liberation, where you had the alpha melanated militant brother, and how, our government conspired to make sure that particular brother was no longer a part of the equation, whether it was the war of Vietnam, where they sent a lot of our alphas to war, and most of them came back, if they were fortunate enough to come back, either addicted to heroin or had PTSD or could no longer function as a head of household. And that's when we started to see the shift in the black community, the Aboriginal community, where you no longer saw strong families. Now you started to see an epidemic of single parent households, and that's when the war of drugs started. And so what happens is, this is also around the same time frame when white women coerced black women to be a part of their initiative called feminism, where black women were on the front lines of feminism, only to realize that they weren't the ones receiving the actual benefit of feminism. So they became political pawns in this game of feminism, and it still happens today. And so now what happens is, and you also have to take into consideration, this is also during a time of integration, where a lot of our people felt that a seat at the table was going to bring them equality. And we had to learn over time that a seat at the table really didn't equate to anything but slavery upgraded. And so what happens is, you have all of our people that are suffering from their condition, and they're confused and they don't know who they are. And so now what they do is they feel like they're going outside of their community, outside of who they are, is going to bring them, it's going to fill that void. And so you have men and women out here dating, procreating outside of their race, but what they don't understand is they are diluting their legacy, because eventually the objective is to, phase this out. So hopefully that was add a little bit more context.
I didn't know about the concubine history with Indigenous women prior to Americas, so that's something new. But I do understand the Black women's plight as far as dating outside their race. It's I don't think it's more of a self-hating thing. It's more of trying to get out of poverty thing. However you want to take that. What was I going to say after that? I'm not really sure why. Oh, I think black men do it, I guess, because they see like black women as like struggle as well. Like we see each other as like the poverty and the struggling. So we go outside of our race to try to get away from that. So I think that's what that comes from. And we think just because we sit next to them is going to make our lives better, but we don't know that having money, they're still racist. Like having money and like being in whatever position or whatever, at the end of the day, they're still racist and like they're supremacists. That it's like a religion. So yeah. And I guess we don't understand that. And I think that comes from the boomer era where we just trying to assimilate. And I think we're trying to get away from that now. I know, like, us millennials, we're trying to get away from that. We know we don't want, for the most part, the assimilation. I think we're trying to fight that.
As you said, the boomers were responsible for being the integrationists. And unfortunately, the microcosms of that abnormal behavior is you create generations of people who are searching for something that they feel is more than what they have. So they feel like they need to entertain dating outside of their race in order to escape their reality. But what they don't understand is you cannot escape being a melanated individual. You can try to, procreate with another race, have, mixed race babies, but that doesn't change the situation. That's not even a band-aid to the situation, because first of all, there was nothing wrong in the first place. It's because of the conditioning that we don't know who we are, and if we do know who we are, well, we don't love who we are. And due to the miseducation of our people, whether it's, denationalization or the Darwinism, whatever you want to call it, too many of us don't know our true history and what we were responsible for. Because history, the victors write history, and so because we don't control our education on a macro level, too many of our children grow up feeling that no matter what they do, it's just not enough. And so it's up to people like us in this room to make sure that, number one, we control our content, to make sure we are 100% involved with our child's education. Hopefully nobody in this room is even sending their children to the enemy to teach them. Hopefully we'll get into a situation where homeschool is the norm, because we cannot expect to eradicate multiple millenniums of miseducation by continuing to send our children off to the enemy. And so when we have a community, when we have an infrastructure, when we're practicing group tribal economics, and we're practicing unity, not with something symbolic, but with something tangible like our dollar and our resources, and we'll continue to build and reciprocate with one another, and make that a lifestyle. Like, we don't have to just have, buy black or we buy black or hashtag this or buy black on this day because Gucci pissed us off, or we're boycotting this business, or now all of a sudden we want to buy a black product today. Why does it take all of that? Why don't we just do that anyway? And why don't we hold the white man accountable the same way we hold our brothers and sisters accountable? Amazon, you have your package a day late. You know, we're not trying to go to Yelp and try to destroy the credibility of this business. You know, we need to start practicing the same compassion for one another, you know, and stop putting the white man on a pedestal. But I'm done with my rant, but hopefully I answered your question. Please, can we have some more people, you know, chime in? Because I don't want to become redundant. I know Ken doesn't want to become redundant. So let's get some more people to participate so we can really build off this discussion. Because I know everybody's here has something to say. So please feel free, raise your hand if you want to talk. So the moderators will let you in. Let's get this discussion going.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit. I just think we need to focus on, you know, like what the goals of arna are as far as like implementing institutions and, you know, just keep with that progress. Like, as you know, a few of the other brothers were saying earlier, when we have these institutions implemented, we can provide that security for our women. We can provide that security for our children. We can have that type of structure so that we can operate fully as Indigenous men. And in that way, you know, via the institutions, via the way we're operating our society, you know, I think we'll definitely be able to protect our women and protect our culture, you know what I'm saying, in our society and all that. But like, I don't have much to say. I'm just here listening and learning, trying to build with y'all brothers. I'm joined a tribe a couple months ago, and I'm still, you know, I'm just learning, you feel me? I'm just getting on this path and everything. So I appreciate y'all. I really want to say that I appreciate y'all. I appreciate this clubhouse. All the brothers and sisters in here from Arna and other tribes. Like,
we appreciate you, God.
Absolutely.
God, word up.
Appreciate you even being in a, you know, into a tribal government, because we still got a lot of people that think that's not a major first step. No matter what the logistics of it is, the attempt and the operation to do so goes a long way. You know what I mean? So much respect on that level, fam. I do want to just stay real quick, because Jay made a real quick point that I think needs to be highlighted. And I'm definitely and pass the mic to whoever wants to build next. But to chime on the fact that we need our own schools, because we do. We very much really, really do. And in my opinion, that is what should be expected for Indigenous Black men to build for their nation. I don't care what nation you're a part of. You know what I mean? I don't care if you know, in the U.S., you know, on their operations. You know what I mean? If you don't have a school for your community that's, you know, with your people, for your people, I don't care how small or big it is. It could be wifey in that joint. You know what I mean? And not even to say, look, with this discussion, I wanted to kind of take to a broader sense of, you know, if we're gonna, us being in the nation state, Indigenous nation, Aboriginal nation, we need to be on our strategy. The men, we need to be on our strategy. We need to be on. Yes, okay, for instance, we need a school. It don't matter how big or small. You know what I mean? Say it's really small. Wifey and that mug with 2 kids, 3 kids, she's operating her homeschool. It's incumbent upon the men to make that functional. If the sister's gonna be doing homeschool, she needs to be making money off that. You know what I mean? She needs an Indigenous business. This isn't a promo, because we do them. You know what I mean? We register them, but it just needs to be done. I don't care if it's, you know, it matters if it's not a tribal business, but even if it's not, that sister needs to be making money off that homeschool. If she's going to be operating, you know what I mean, or one of the heads doing it while you operating your business or whatever, or contracting, whatever it is, it's incumbent upon the men to make that functional, make sure her business credit is good, you know, do what's needed for your personal credit, but for sure the business credit, so that way when she's, you know, working, whether it's a 9 to 5 or so many hours, she can get off and, you know, she can look up and be like, okay, I'm accumulating for the household and or for myself. You know what I mean? With every single thing that it is. You know what I mean? Like, one broader, in another broader sense, right? Remember that though. But if it don't matter if you, dang man, if you're, we should be. It's okay to have your 9 to 5s. It's okay to have your 9 to 5, but if that 9 to 5 isn't building to get out of a lesser than role, you know what I mean? You're doing something wrong. Like when you operate, do your 9 to 5 to get to your own business, to be able to then have your woman to where she doesn't have to work for white folks either. You talk to me, that's expected among Indigenous men. You know what I mean? If you ain't doing that, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, that should be the goal every day. Let me make sure my baby ain't working for these white folks who's probably fetishizing her, talking down on her, got these white women looking crazy at her, talking, behind her back to make other people look at her crazy. This shit that happens every day. And me and Kojo got to deal with people coming to us, be like, yo, I got an EEOC case because they did something. It's like, understandable. Okay. We got to charge you. You know what I mean? Like, I wish we could, we could do those kind of things for free, but we can't. The solution and goal should be, get your own business. I know everybody ain't built for business, but we're in an imbalanced situation, nigga. You gonna have to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, we're not in this position. I'm not meant to be a business owner. My energies, my Indigenous cards say I work good with people. You better get a partnership, homie. Because we ain't got no black banks, or Indigenous banks. We ain't got no Aboriginal stores. We ain't got no Aboriginal farming operations. We ain't got no Aboriginal. Now, I see that more closer in our jurisdiction. But when I'm driving down the street, I don't see it like that. So thus forth, we're sorely behind. Negroes gonna have to figure something out. I don't care if you don't know business that well. You better get with a jurist, get with a law master, get with somebody who can guide you to operate proper business tactics and business credit and debt removal, so that way you can operate on your credit and all that stuff. So when I'm talking, all this is a means to say, we're going to protect our women, get them out of their jurisdictions. Get them, operate your own, business operations, or join a collective that's making money in some way, shape, or fashion, and put your lady on. You know what I mean? And then it's incumbent upon the lady to, if the man has a solid strategy and game plan, not to be hard-headed. You know what I mean? Because I know it's been built within us, because our ladies had to do so much on their own that, they kind of had to start figuring out their own strategy and stuff like that. Due to white supremacy, we ain't gonna escape that. Niggas, due to white supremacy, same reason why, black men isn't in the homes, that there's still their choice. Not giving nobody no passes, but what I'm saying is, I understand why women, it's a little hard to just trust a man in 2021. I understood it in 2015. You know what I mean? Like, Negroes trying to figure it out, which we're trying to build. We're trying to nation build. But that's what a nation is supposed to be about. It's what an Indigenous Aboriginal nation is supposed to be about. You know what I mean? You operating your own autonomy, and you don't need white mommy, white daddy to do it, to do anything for you. Contract with who you want to contract. I'm not saying not to contract with white folks. I'm not saying not to contract with Asians. Shoot, that'll help propel your stuff. But make sure you're not in a lesser than position. And make sure you put your woman on. And Aboriginal women, don't be hard-headed. Have a good judge of character. Yeah, I'm not going to be on here ranting. You know what I mean? But I'm just stating, if the brother, here's one thing to look out for. If he's a part of white folks' jurisdiction and he's okay with it, that's a flag. Point blank, that's a flag. If he's not about his people, Aboriginal people, that's a flag. Me and the whole chief was going back and forth all week about that. You know what I mean? That's a flag. 3, what is he trying to do? I know we have a lot of brothers over here trying to do their business. That's okay. You know what I mean? Sisters, a lot of sisters have more business acumen than men in 2021. Okay, look, equally do it, but sister, you give feel free to give him some game. If he look like he's not trying to listen to you, unlike, you just happen to know money a little bit better than him, it's in your cards, it's in your Indigenous cosmology cards, you got nothing but diamonds there. You know what I mean? Put the man on game. Try to put him on game, and if he doesn't listen, and it's not working, you got to shake the spot. If he's, it's a balance there. So that's my thing. I just wanted to say that. We're going to have to figure out this full-fledged thing, because down to the schools, down to the money, down to the food. You know what I mean? I'm expecting them, alert for anybody that's, still listening. I'm expecting them to do what they did to Texas here in the next, down a few weeks, down a few months, cut off the grid. You see what they did to Cuba? And cut off the internet? Cut off the cell phone?
It's in Nebraska right now. I'm here, just sorry to interrupt, but I'm here in Nebraska, and the power went out here for 2 days. Like, and I'm at my grandma's, and I'm like, wow. It already happened here, so I'm sure you're correct. That's going to happen everywhere else.
Wow. Am I looking at a crystal ball? You know, now currently, I got my indigenous cosmology cards to kind of do that. You know what I mean? Like, I can kind of do that, but it's not magic. This is like strategy. Like, when you're dealing with, if you know your enemy well enough, you know how they operate. You can read it like, you know, when they were reading the green screen on the Matrix or the black screen with the green letters that didn't make no sense. You niggas, okay, this is what's happening. Makes perfect sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, that's just really what it is. Like, I'm expecting, so if it's already happening in Nebraska, it's shorter period.
They said it was tornadoes. Like, it was a tornado storm, but no one saw the tornado. They just were like, oh, it was a windstorm, and the power went out, tree branches were broken, they sold out of chainsaws. I'm like, wow, I was living just like this in Texas. Like, so when it happened, like, I think most people would just be like, not saying it's still not shocking, but because it's already happened to us, like power going out, but then it was in the winter, there was, you know, no heat, things like that, versus here in Nebraska, well, you know, there was no rain here like that, and they just said wind did this and took out the power grid, and, you know, people were out here, couldn't get into hotels, because it's Nebraska now, so stuff gets sold out. Not that many options, even downtown. It's like, people were going to Lincoln, which is like trying to go like 45 minutes away. The gas prices are hiked up. It's crazy. Just like Texas, it's literally like a deja vu.
I want to pose a question to everybody in the room. If the internet went out tonight, if the power grid went out tonight, how would you communicate with your loved ones? These are the type of questions that we need to start asking, because, you know, if the last year has been any indication that the make-believe world that majority of people have been living in for the majority of their life, that bubble is popped. And so if you're not preparing or, you know, prepping, if you don't have an emergency get out of Dodge bag situation. If my wife and I just ordered walkie-talkies to have 20-mile range that just came in. They just came in yesterday. We're in the process of looking at sat phones for people in other time zones. You know, they've been force-feeding predictive programming down our throats for the majority of our lives. Every agenda that's current, whether it's transhumanism, whether it's you know, vaccines or globalism, Zionism, feminine, whatever. We've seen it all. They've been showing it in predictive programming movies, The Walking Dead, The Hunger Games, you know, the Virgin series. All of these movies, they're showing this stuff for a reason. They're trying to desensitize you for when these black swan events happen. And so if you aren't having these conversations with your loved ones, with your circle, then you might need to get a new circle, because this shit is real. And I hate to break it, be the bearer of bad news, but it's not going to get any better anytime soon. If anything, everything that has been transpiring over the course of the past year was simply a trial run. And unfortunately, the vast majority of our people have failed. When you have, in July of 2021, you still have people driving alone in their cars wearing a mask because they're afraid. People walking down the street by themselves because they're afraid. You know, and fear. That is the enemy of high vibration. You know, whenever you fear something, you can't think or function. You know, and unfortunately, the majority of these people that are out here making these poor decisions, taking jab or whatever else they're doing, is because they're responding to fear. They're watching the news. They're watching CNN every day. my parents, they every time I talk to them, they're watching the news. It's lowering their vibration. So this ain't the time for partying and bullshitting and going on a vacation, because that's all a vacation is. You're just vacating your reality. You know, there's no time for that shit right now. Right now, we need to be building, we need to be preparing, and we need to be having a plan of action for when something unforeseen that is going to happen. Because if you don't have maps, this is a time to purchase compasses, flashlights, maps, waters, first aid kits. You just don't know. If everybody who lives in the state of Texas knows what happened back in February when the grid shut down and the power was out, and we faced record temperatures. That wasn't a first time thing. That was a test run.
And I want to say this too. When that happened, I feel like you really, at least I don't know about anyone else's region, but I feel like that kind of like kicked our region more into gear to be more active, because just having that reality of, okay, we can have tribe here, but they may not have food and things like that. And then we think about, okay, even if you had the last food to your name, who would you share that with? I would share that with my tribe, bro. Over some friends that I may have, had. I'm not saying that I wouldn't share with them too, but I would know that them and my family come before friends. Like, and it's just, it may seem kind of like harsh or whatever, but, when it gets pretty tough, like, especially in that situation, if you have one can of beans, like, okay, literally, who you gonna share the beans with? How many beans? Like, how you gonna break it down? But it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think even though some bad things may be happening in the world, it's made some really good things, because I feel like me and my tribe are closer too. Like, I have, they're not just tribe, like, they're my best friends too. Like, and I'm probably just family card, so sorry if it seems like I'm just being, like, really, like, mom mode, but, yeah, like, just hanging out with them, like, they heal you, bro, like, it's mental, physical, spiritual too, so it's like, how could you not want to hang out with them all day? Like, we all are so intelligent, like, everybody that I know, even outside the tribe too, like, my friends are intelligent as well, but it's just, like, a certain energy, like, when everyone's trying to be, like, mentally, physically, spiritually their best self, and even if we're not all the way there or all the time, it's like, dang, it's just like that, like they said, gods and goddesses, like, it's like, dang, if you can hang out with gods all day, like, what would you do? Like, nobody's anybody else, but, yeah.
Peace, everyone. Good night. Peace to the room, everybody I know. Those who don't know me, my name is Asim. I like the question that the brother, I think it was Jada, just put out. Those who know me, I've been building for a long time, and whether it's inside my nation, outside of my nation, giving the information, and so on and so forth. And me personally, on that question of communication, in case something, if certain things go out, that was something I always, how do I want to put it? I don't want to sound too harsh, but I drill that in family and friends and even the nation, and the groups that I have been a part of, not been a part of, that is a part of. And we do radio waves, because at the end of the day, the internet could go out, but we do radio waves. We have codes. We have people that's ex-military, Air Force, different types, and they've been teaching each other, me as well, how to communicate when certain things go down. So those radio waves is always up. Emergency broadcast is always up, period. That's how they communicate. And like the brother said, map. If you don't know how to read a map, use a compass, you fucked. Because when you got to get somewhere, and, you might be far from your family or, people, whatever, you need to know how to get there. And Series and your Google Maps, they ain't gonna always be there. You know, there's so many different things that you could use, blueprints of how to get around. And you got to do that. You have to learn from right now. I've been telling people this when I was giving lectures back in 2015, 16. Kojo was there. I've been telling people this. But our people is whether they awake, they still sleeping. And y'all got to get serious. If y'all say y'all really love y'all family, y'all kids, y'all get fucking serious. Because they're not playing with us. And they ain't playing with each other who ain't with them. So then therefore, you got to learn these tactics. You know what I'm saying? You got to get a walkie-talkie, do some research with it, get it hacked, so your walkie-talkie doesn't just go 6 feet away. You know what I'm saying? The walkie-talkie ranges goes crazy far. But, you know, I know that there's some family that lives in different states. You know what I'm saying? So you can also meet people and however, you know, I know Arna, they got people in all kinds of different states. So you can have people in between and do a protocol with them. You know, so in case your walkie-talkie, you know, your radio waves don't get to a certain length, it can reach that one in the middle, and that one can send a message to the other one in another state or two. So these are things that we definitely got to do. And if you ain't doing that, like the brother said, then what are you doing? Or we just coming here just to talk, to sound good, just to get people to follow us? I don't give a damn about followers on Facebook, Instagram. I know people in real life. I build trust with people in real life. So y'all got to get on your game. And I don't know who is or who's not. I'm just saying, if you're not, please do. I love my people, man. I love my family. Love the kids. I love my kids. Like, it is what it is. Thank you. I digress.
Respect, God. Much respect to that, fam. That was some gems, actually. That was some real good gems, bro. Yeah, much respect, God. You know what I mean? You rolling with Kojo out there in New York, Oklahoma?
New York. Nah, Kojo know me from New York.
Oh, that's what's up, God. That's what's up, fam. Yo, man, no, those some powerful gems, man. Straight up.
Definitely appreciate you. But yeah, this is a conversation that need to be happening. You know, we really have to come together.
I think you're so right to bring up spiritual, like the spiritual warfare, like telepathy, like how we could do things like that, like as communications if even the radio went down. Like now that you brought that up, I'm like, dang, like low key we got people now taking classes for that, but nobody probably thinks that would be worth the investment, but some people do, and those people are very intelligent because of, you know, kind of what you said.
I'd like to say to you, Queen, like, there's a lot of people on this app talking about spirituality and they doing this, and you know, I know those who are. I know when this whole card thing started coming along, and I give people their credit for who they are. Ali Muhammad was the one who started coming up, and from him when he was starting the cosmology, it just spread it like wildfire. I'm not even gonna hold you up, you know what I'm saying? But then there's people here that's faking it. They just can't even. There's people here that's talking about your card is this and your card is that, and they can't even see 2 weeks into the future. Like, there's a whole bunch of people faking. Let it be. All right, so let me say this to you. I guarantee you, if there be a radioactive threat that's going on say it was going on at that present time, what their spirituality is going to do? They scared. So what are you going to do? All this talk is good now, but when it really happens, is they really about it at that time? That's what I like to know.
All of the lights came off.
Okay, I'll fix it. That's the question. When things really happen, are they really about it? Is they just using it to impress people on social media? What is it about?
It's not working.
Yo, those are good points, fam. Real good points, God. Yo, man, and not to, just shameless plug, but we do have a brother in the nation, our tribal nation, that does have solar panels. So I said solar panels, but what's the term? Oh, let me go look at it. I give you the exact name. I'm gonna bring it up. I'm looking at exactly what it looked like. It is the
Shit.
very big. You know what I mean? Being able to charge whole houses and buildings and things of that nature. So, he's us. So, tap into him. Again, Power X generators. You know what I mean? So, you're going to do it with our people, and they throw raw. They're real good. You know what I mean? They last. They have the lithium batteries and all kind of they keep it charged for very long. So, tap in Power X generators. That's one major piece as well that'll, keep you and your people intact if stuff starts cutting off. I know we get into a more serious preparation conversation, but this is what's expected of Indigenous Black men. You know what I mean? And as well as the sisters to build with and roll with and also bring in, good ideas, from our thinkers and our strategy builders. You know, everybody has them. I don't know if everybody here understands what we're talking about with the cards, but majority of y'all do, I think. But those are powerful moves to understand your capabilities, your energies, your powers that were given to you amongst your birth. So when we're having these conversations, to understand your cards is also a powerful combo. You know what I mean? Because then you can build for your nation. You can build for your government once you understand how you operate. So, But the floor is to anybody else that want to build on the combo, for sure.
Yeah. Can anyone say their cards in the room? Like with just birth cards?
7 of
A 2 of
spades.
diamonds and a 2 of hearts.
7 of spades. 6 of clubs.
Double Queen of Hearts, and my apologies, I don't remember the last card. Mommy brain.
Not the mommy brain. Peace, family.
Oh yeah.
Peace, family. It's Brother Jael here. I'm a 4 diamond and double 8 of hearts.
Much respect, God. I'm the 10 of clubs, King of spades, and 8 of diamonds, planetary number.
6 of clubs, 6 of spades. Ruler card is the Queen of Hearts. Planetary number 6.
Jack of diamonds, 4 heart, 4 diamonds. Sorry, bro.
Ace of diamonds, 5 of hearts, and 8 of spades. Now I'm wrong on 8 of spades, but I don't remember.
Peace, family. 10 of diamonds, double 5 of hearts.
Peace to the fam. 9 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, Jack of clubs.
Peace, family. Queen of Hearts, 8 of Diamonds, and 10 of Spades. Peace, Brother Asim. Good to hear from you, man.
Respect, fam. Those are important. For anybody that's listening that don't know what we're talking about, those are important to know. It might sound quite foreign, but they can literally save your life. You know what I mean? And put you where you need to be in your life. We have numerous examples of that. Indigenous Black man is also expected of you to know the cards in your household. You know what I mean? no matter what nation you're a part of, you're supposed to know those cards and let those cards work to your benefit. You know what I mean? Your lady, kids, mom, dad, grandpa, all of that. You're supposed to know that. But we say, at least in our nation. So we just suggest it. I'll say, because a lot of people might not be familiar with it. We suggest you understand what those energies are and what they mean to build your nation up and make them functionable and understandable.
Hey, I'd like to add something to that. As significant as it is for us to be knowledgeable of our indigenous psychology, one thing it really just boils down to is self-awareness, right? Right now, it's survival of the fittest, and the fittest being that of the mind. And so, a lot of the discussion was, from earlier, was built on this environment that we're in, and how just basically everything is a result of our lowered consciousness state of mind. And so it's like one of the biggest highlights to what our tribal government and our family and our culture has to bring to our people is not only deprogramming our minds, but reawakening our indigenous minds. And so it comes to family building, partnership, mate selection, or if you're doing business with, being knowledgeable, or really just self-aware of the energy that the Most High has given you. The cards that you've been dealt with certainly gives you an advantage to be more aware of your experiences and being able to channel the more functional side of your energy, right? Because energy, it manifests as a polarity, right? And so the easy thing about our, the indigenous psychology is how it's just broken down as simple as, all of these different placements. Every card represents or has a functional manifestation of the energy and a dysfunctional manifestation of the energy. And so, by being mindful of, like I said, your energy as it manifests through people, circumstances, and events, you can have an advantage, right? And use these energies to your advantage. So if anybody is interested in learning more, I just added an example of a cosmology reading that in a style or format that I typically use. I know many of us up here we do the indigenous cosmology readings, but I know, like I said earlier, it probably sounds foreign to a lot of y'all. So if you just click on my Twitter and just go to like the most recent tweet, you should be able to access an example. I know there's a lot of people out. Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. But yeah, so I definitely should tap in. Like I said, it'll make it like a year since I've been looking or been studying my own cosmology, and it's definitely made a whole life of a difference. As I've become more mindful of who I am as a Four of Diamonds, and as that relates to just being the financial organizer, right? And some things coming to shape in that. Oh, and then last thing I'll also mention too is like Dr. Ali, our chief, he put this teaching in the Immaculate Conception book for a reason, right? And so that reason being that, whenever we are forming our families or, having our children, this is how we birth plan, right? So with this knowledge and with this self-awareness, we understand the little god or the little goddess that we've given birth to, or that we have already given birth to, and what energy they're made of. And so it's like, so for me, in one example, I'm a double Eight of Hearts. And so the Eight of Hearts has to do with influence with people and powerful relationships. And so one thing that dawned on me just within like a month of learning of my cosmology was reading this book and studying this book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so the point here is that, once you know who you're made of, I mean, once you know what energy you're made of or your child is made of, you can now center their attention or direct their attention towards things that will cultivate their innate gifts and talents, right? And so you can go ahead and just be cultivating and getting them on the path early. And even for ourselves, you know, for a long time, we've wasted a lot of time, some of us more than others, you know, not really cultivating ourselves and realizing what our craft is. And so, you know, one of the biggest highlights, and this will be the last thing I say, is that, you know, once you know what what you're made of, you can be more intentional about, you know, what and how you're cultivating yourself and those around you.
I want to give a testimony real quick. Myself and my wife joined the tribe. I want to say it was March. We knew about the tribe last fall and were communicating with several entities within the tribe, just doing our research. But we, like I said, we joined the tribe in March. I was introduced to Indigenous cosmology, and I knew a little bit about, you know, I'm an Aries, so I kind of was in tune with, you know, some of the characteristics, good and bad. And the one thing I can say is, since I've joined the tribe and built with the people, a lot of people in this room, people outside of the room, I've started to adopt habits that are a lot more conducive to, you know, really ultimately achieving peace. I've always been a very intellectual type of individual. I've already stated my athletic background previously, so the physical and the mental was always there, but I lacked the spiritual because, you know, you can say you're powerful or this and that, but the moment a low vibrational person interacts with you and can say something or do something and it causes you to react, then you really can't say that you're high vibration. So I've had to learn how to protect my energy. I've learned how to meditate and you know, sun gaze and eat the proper foods. And I know a lot of people are interested with the tribe from a, you know, financial standpoint, and that's awesome. And, you know, wanting to achieve autonomy. But I can say first and foremost that with me, the spiritual journey that I've gone on since making this decision has been great for myself. My wife is an empath, so I know it's helped her as well with just me, you know, protecting my energy and it not affecting her. We have a son that turns a year and a half tomorrow, and I'm very mindful of my habits and what I show him, so he can be the best version of himself. Because, you know, myself, I come from a family of, you know, very, you know, my father and my brother, you know, they're high-strung individuals that can kind of blow a head gasket at any given second. And for the majority of my life, I was the same way, you know. And so, you know, we can talk about being an alpha and bravado and all this testosterone, but when you can't control your emotions, when you're not in control and you can be provoked, then you're not really in the best position to protect your family. And so I'm just saying all that to say, if anyone interested with building further on what these the goddesses and gods are talking about, I can tell you firsthand from a recent testimony how effective it actually is.
great testimony, brother. Peace, God. Appreciate it.
Excellent testimony, God. Excellent. That's powerful. You gotta do the spiritual build. You gotta have that spiritual rap. Gotta have the preparation rap. Gotta have your, all these things in order. You know what I mean? And Indigenous Nation makes it easy.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just coming in to piggyback off of Jay Ali. That's my husband, so I can say firsthand from another perspective that I've talked about crystals and meditation, all these things with him before, but he just doesn't come from that world or that understanding. So I would always talk about energy, but joining Arna and him being around other. Especially we were at the powwow, we were around all these other strong, men that were just, everybody just had a certain flow and a certain energy that you just saw their aura as they walked in the room, And I think being around that and just seeing how everybody, nothing stressed anybody out, everybody was chill, a big thing, just to share with you guys, a big issue in our household was about time. And we always, I think that's the main argument for us is time. If, especially as women, we take forever. Dudes waiting for us at the door. Come on, what's going on? I told this person I was going to be here. It creates arguments. But when we were at this particular function, everybody else, all these other men, all these other people were just free flow, And then when we spoke to Powtoon, he's not here currently, but, he talked about time and that being something of the oppressor that they put upon us, to feel like we have to do this at this time. This time, well, it really shouldn't be like that. And so once he explained it to us, once we saw everybody else flowed, once we saw everybody else's energy, it was so easy. It's one thing to tell somebody, especially, my husband tells me stuff I don't listen to, and then I'll take somebody from the tribe, and he's like, oh, now you want to read that book that Powtoon told you. I've been telling you to read it for 6 months, But it's just one of those things where, he has to be around all these other people and see how the frequency that they're on and the understanding for him to kind of get into that flow. And so I'm so grateful that, a lot of you brothers out there that, we got to interact with, because then he's able to fall into this place and kind of want to have a level of understanding. Jay is knowledgeable on everything. He's obsessed with books, and he's obsessed with learning. So for there to be an avenue of something that he doesn't know about, which has a lot to do with us, what do you call it, sacred geometry and chakras and all these different things. So it's just amazing what this path has done for us. It's created so much balance and peace. Not that there wasn't peace before, but just a different level of peace. You would think that you were at peace until you get to this level of peace, and then you realize, oh shit, this is peace right here. I don't know what I thought that was, but I just wanted to share that.
Very good point. Very good point. We appreciate you sharing that. You know what I mean? We have people that the energy when someone else says it, that's a commonality in Aboriginal households. You know what I mean? It's the energy when it's commonality, and it's good to find that balance for that. So that's actually pretty deep right there. You know what I mean? Man, so that's real. Do we have anybody else who want to build on what they think black men should be on, or has a question on? I want to question the brothers. You know what I mean? Do we have any questions for the brothers? Do we have any sisters that got or questions that the brothers have for the sisters, or questions that the sisters have for the brothers on what's expected upon them? Krishana brought up a good point. Bed buck and bed winching. Where's all that interracial stuff at? She didn't say that term. That was me. What? Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions?
Really? Oh, well, if there's no questions, then let me get into this. Ladies, I think I know most of you ladies on here, but, let's have this feminist conversation, because I feel like I'm the only female that just, I go gung-ho for, feminism. Because I hate shit.
But there's so many like women that say, "Oh, I'm like pro-black, I'm for the people, and this and that," and then they rocking around being a feminist, and I'm just like, "Yo, that's not it. That's the opposite. It's contradictory to everything we're doing." I mean, we don't have to get into how feminism started unless you want to get into it. But overall, like I'm raising a little black boy right now, a little melanated little man, and feminism is a threat to my child. You understand? So it's a big problem for me. But so many women, they just be like, "You tripping." But I don't think I'm tripping. Like, it's a problem. It's the reason why we have situations like the Nate Parker situation. He done been in movies for 10 years, comes out with Birth of a Nation, and now they want to send the black feminists after him. Or they want to send the they do the Me Too, and they do the whole, "Oh, he raped me," or "He touched me," even though I went to their hotel room. And you know what I mean? So I can't rock with that because I have a little man, and I don't need nobody trying to do some crazy shit for, it's just, it's a deep conversation for me. So if anybody wants to chime in.
I want to say one thing, and I'm going to get off. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mercedes.
I was just saying, I totally agree with you. Like, they make it seem like that becomes before, like, then without the black woman and man, without the men, we would not create black children. So it's like, in my opinion, obviously most people do know, and if you don't know, it's really a distraction from us building black families. Again, like, we're the most powerful as a family. So it's for people not to come together as a family when it's natural. Like, even if you don't know somebody black when you walk in the room, y'all feel that carbon. You feel that energy. There's a certain level of a code. And, like, when you're around with people, yes, you got to be disciplined, but that's, like, the fun part about it. It's like when you see, like, the best and most functionality of the people around you. It's, like, freaking, like, the feminism, like you said, it takes away from all that.
Why did black women join feminism? Why did they feel the need to do that?
I got you on that one. All right, sis. So, well, we first know there are several ways of the feminist movement. Some people say it's 3, some people say it's 4, it's here nor there, who knows? But the first and second wave of the feminist movement, there were these white women didn't even want black women in the room. They were so racist. They didn't want them to be a part of it. They wanted to reach this glass ceiling without of just trying to get above men in general. Black women were not a woman to them in essence. It wasn't until about the third wave of the feminist movement where, we have the Black Liberation Army at this time, and they're thinking, okay, how can we combat this? How can we, get black women on our side so they cannot be on their side? So that's the only reason. You go from racist, not even being in the same room as black women, to, let's bring them into our movement. It was some. Oh God, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so passionate about this topic because it bothers me so much. But overall, black women started feeling like they wanted to be a part of this group of this. Let's get equal women's rights. They kept getting in their heads saying, we got all these strong, black men a part of the Black Liberation Army, but there's no women at the forefront. So they're being unfair to you. How can we, you should fight for your rights. Why don't you join our cause and fight for your rights? And that's what created kind of a division, But, Jay knows a little more about this than I do, but, I'll let him more so get into it. But that's kind of the basis of how it started, and then it kind of spiraled out of control. And let me just say that a lot of those meetings, when black women did join this feminist movement, they were not allowed to be in those meetings in the same room. In the third wave of feminism, they cannot be in the room with them, but they were still able to say, we're going to fight for our rights alongside you, but we can't even sit next to these people. We can't even use the same bathrooms, but they still wanted to be a part of this cause. So you already know that's a problem. But Jay, I'll let you kind of get deeper into it.
It was started by the CIA.
COINTELPRO, yep.
Agreed.
So black women felt oppressed, so they decided to join the feminist movement to combat their oppressions. Is that what we're saying?
Well, it was also one of the beginning of the LGBTQ. Y'all forgetting about that too?
Yeah, that's real. On that,
it was the beginning of them.
Yeah, watch that butt break and points it out. Like,
I think I touched on it earlier. Historically, when we look at this time period when feminism became a thing, and as the God Asim alluded to, it was a CIA psyop. It's documented. You can look it up and then look it up and do your own research. But it started from the CIA. And when you look at the 60s, and when we look back at the movement, the liberation movement, Black Power movement, Civil Rights movement, Black nationalism, all of the different entities that were involved, and you saw the freedom fighters, and we saw a strong unit within our families. And then that was around the time when the War of Vietnam kicked off. I believe it was 68, if I'm not mistaken, 66, 68, I believe, somewhere around that time frame. And we started shipping off our alphas to the Vietnam War. Many didn't return at all. And those that did return were a shell of their former self. They were either addicted to heroin, or they suffering some form of PTSD to go on top of the other PTSD that they've been dealing with, just being a melanated man in America. And so now you're coming off into a war, and then you're returning home, and you're not even considered a respected citizen in your own homeland that just you built, that your ancestors built. And what happened? The government socially engineered a divide within his household where he effectively emasculated the melanated masculine male. You started to see the level of incarceration go up significantly. This is all documented because who was president during this time? You had Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon, who had a specific hard-on to make an example of the liberation and the freedom fighters, if you will. And so we had a target on our back. And so that's when, like I say, you started seeing the incarceration rate go up tremendously. You started to have less fathers in the household. And then that just continued to matriculate as we get into the 80s. Now we've got the war on drugs. We got President Reagan as the president. And we got, we got legislation being passed to, give different charges for people in possession of crack as opposed to cocaine. Fast forward a few years later, you have the crime bill passed, 3-strike law, and we have more melanated brothers incarcerated than we have people who were on plantations. All of these things that they just build layers upon layers. Now, I'm not making excuses for men who fail to uphold the duty of being a father or a husband, or men who got physical or just didn't hold the mantle or didn't live up to the expectation of what it takes to be an indigenous black man. But we cannot discount the generations of social engineering and conditioning that put us in this predicament. Okay, and then we also can't ignore the Stockholm syndrome that coerced our melanated sisters into believing that their lifeline, their escape, their way out of their predicament, their low socioeconomic status was to go get a white man. That's where the whole white zaddy term derived from. And if anyone, I'm sure, just from looking at the type of people that are in this room, high vibration, I'm sure the majority of people are familiar with The ISIS Papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsey. But if by chance you haven't read that book and you want to get a little bit of clarity on everything that we're talking about, that would be a great way to start to kind of decode and understand all of the things that's currently happening. Because if you haven't noticed, history always repeats itself. The only thing it does is evolve and upgrade.